Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of your Bitch Therapist podcast, and not just any episode. We're with our dear friend Mandy Slutzker. Hi, Mandy.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm great, and I know Mandy's been dealing with something kind of interesting. So I want to ask how you're doing so you can share a little bit with the audience of what you just witnessed.
Yeah, so I was on my way to drop my dog Stassi off at her doggy daycare, and I walked past filming for the Real Housewives of Potomac. Which it's crazy. I've lived in the city for so long and I've never run into them, and they have been directly on my block. So an indescript fitness support thing, but also for the National Brain Tumor Society. But I appreciate that so much. I think it's so lovely that that's how Giselle is honoring her father.
Yeah.
And the National Brain Tumor Society can use all the support that it gets. They do so much incredible work. And, someone who knows someone who's been personally impacted by a brain tumor, it is a wild thing. And I'm so glad that there is more funding for research and that they advocate for people with this and that they create a community for survivors, for friends of survivors, for people who are loved ones of those who didn't make it. Right. And
Right.
I'm very grateful. And I got a chance to chat with one of the ladies who works at the National Brain Tumor Society and puts on some really cool events. Yeah. I just was like, wait, why are there cameras?
And on your podcast, we talked about, so by the way, this is a reminder that please go check out part 1 of this podcast. We talked about so many things. We talked about this. We talked about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Southern hospitality, which people have been wanting me to cover. So if you want to hear my thoughts on Southern hospitality, check out Mandy's podcast at Is This Real Life with Mandy Slutzker. But who did you see filming with the ladies, Mandy?
Yes. So I saw obviously Giselle and Ashley, but then when I looked in, I saw Robin, which
Robin's
made
back,
me very
y'all.
happy. I never thought I would be so happy to see her. I just, I miss her. I was really frustrated with her last season when she was not open about some of the stuff that had gone on with her and Juan. And she just seemed kind of checked out in general. But I always liked Robin. And
same.
I miss her, and I miss seeing her and Giselle. And I'm eager to also see Robin's reaction to Karen Huger being back, because Robin is one of the only people that clocked Karen for who Karen is.
Literally. And that is one of the reasons that I am thrilled that she was back, because like you said, I was frustrated too. I think she was checked out, but there is such a kinship with her and Giselle. And I do really like Robin. I think she's so funny. I think she does bring a lot when she wants to. But quite frankly, I think her last couple seasons, I think she was depressed. My interpretation.
Yeah, you're right. She was. I have a lot of empathy for that.
Yeah, and so do I, but also she wasn't doing her part for sure, because it's you have to share your life on the show. But what I feel like is so interesting about this is Giselle didn't even get a package because she didn't talk about anything last season. So number one, I'm surprised that Giselle wasn't fired. And number two, I'm wondering if they're bringing Robin back to try to do Giselle a solid, because let's face it, Giselle has way more of a storyline when Robin's on than when she's not. So it's going to be an interesting season. And I am really happy because I am only interested in seeing people keep their foot on Karen's neck. That's what I'm interested in seeing, because I'm not here to watch another storyline like PK being like, well, I was an alcoholic, but now I can drink again, or whatever. I don't know. We're not doing that here. So I am very excited for you. I am geeking out secondhand. So if you want to hear the rest of the story, go to listen to Mandy's podcast, part 1, and you talk a lot about it. But how very cool. When you texted me that, you had something exciting, I was like, oh my gosh, what is it? And man, it did not disappoint. So today, we're going to be talking Summer House and the Valley. Number one, so I want to address the whole, because I addressed this on Instagram and then we addressed it on your podcast, but the whole Summer House audio footage being leaked. I am not commenting on that because I feel, in the state of New York, recording someone without their consent is illegal. Like you said on the podcast, part one, you have never seen a response like this from Bravo. People are
Yeah.
angry. And from what I heard, it's the audio, it's hard to hear and it's without context. So for me, I understand why other content creators might be talking about it or giving their thoughts. But for me, it doesn't feel appropriate to give thoughts on something that was obtained illegally. I want to respect the cast, the crew, like everybody. And I understand if that's not for everybody, but that's kind of where I fall on that. What do you think, Mandy?
I actually never listened to it. I tried to read a transcript that like came across, but it wasn't it I wasn't able to like digest it because I didn't hear it,
Mhm.
and I was just like, this is
Yeah.
stupid. I'll just see it when it comes out.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, like, I have this really strong feeling that I miss the days of Bravo before social media was, like, a main player, because to me, it just ruins it. Like, summer's supposed to be fun, and it's not fun, not only because of the whole Amanda and West mishigas, it's also because of the fact that now social media is so involved, people are doing these kind of things, and it's like, can't we all just be cool? Why? I don't want spoilers. I don't
No,
wanna have it
people
ruined. What are we
cannot be
doing?
cool. Like, Bravo
No.
fans have no chill. It makes me
None.
angry to know that people are like sending hate to West and Amanda. It is so uncalled for. It is so
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yep.
Like, they are going to be made to feel bad by their friends, right?
Right.
Don't let like and like fans, yeah, but it's just like I just really one of my biggest pet peeves with like viewers is this idea that we have to hold folks accountable. Like, it's not our job to hold people on these
No.
shows accountable. That's not our role. Our role is to
Right.
view and to comment. And we don't have to
Mhm.
comment directly to them, especially if we don't have anything nice to say. Like, none of us know what it's like to
Exactly.
be like the most hated person in New York City, right? Like, that's
Literally. Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
when you have the mayor of New York commenting on what's going on.
Literally.
I don't know if like I don't believe ever on reality TV the punishment fits the crime with this. Like the
Mhm.
amount that people are trying to punish Wes and Amanda, it's a shitty situation. Sierra
Yeah.
deserves to be angry. Kyle deserves to be angry. Even Kyle is not as angry as random strangers on the internet. And I
L
just need
literally.
everyone to like take a deep breath. It did
Right.
not happen to you. It is not about you, and
Mhm.
we can all like let's not ruin the show by
Right.
making ourselves part of it, right? We're supposed to be the
Right.
ones that view and they perform, and let the performers perform and let us be the audience, but we try to insert ourselves and make ourselves a plot point. I don't like that.
It's very well said, and I couldn't agree more because it isn't about us. And this is also why when people send what I write to these people, I'm like, please don't, because they don't.
You
It's
don't
not
tag
my
them for a
job.
reason.
Right. Number one, they're not going to listen to me. Like, they could be sitting in front of me and I could be like, hey, but like, I don't know them. I'm not their therapist. They're not going to listen to me. I may not be right. I may be off base. There's just like a million reasons. But whenever I do a post and I see how many times it's been shared, I'm like, how many people have sent this to Danny Bucco? I just cannot even imagine how many people have done that. So, yeah, I just think we
Yeah.
all need to be cool. We're not involved. Like, let's not try to make this Scandival, which was, like, too exhausting to even it was exhausting
I
then, it's
think it's
exhausting
become
now.
that though. The thing is, like, it's supposed to be our thing that we comment on for fun, right? And it like stops, I
Mhm.
think, being fun when it gets mean. And I know people are
Yeah.
angry, and it is like on Sierra's behalf and on Kyle's behalf. And like, yeah, it is an angering situation, but like it didn't happen to us, and we need to stop acting as if it did.
Yeah. But be angry, but, like, be cool, be like a regular
I don't
person
know. Don't
about
even
it,
be
just
that
like
like angry. Like, you shouldn't let these like strangers impact your life. I think what happens is people get triggered, or folks on the show
Sure.
remind them of someone in their lives or some situation that they experienced, and it all floods back, and they totally get that. Don't let
Sure.
it.
Right. I mean, but listen, here's what I will say. Like, I am mad at West. I'm mad that men are just needing to do better for me. But, like, even to your point, that's me projecting. That's me projecting my frustration with men as a whole. And so your point is valid that, like, when we feel very strong feelings about these characters, these people we watch on TV, it's more about us than it is about them. And that's why I
Yep.
always encourage people be mindful of your reactions, because what's good about that is that can give you actual information about yourself, who's the only person in this scenario who matters. Because at the end of the day, West, Amanda, Kyle, they're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to live their life, and it's going to have nothing to do with us. So yeah, that's absolutely.
Can I say something on that? So
You can.
to take it to the valley, I firmly believe that Janet is not the worst person on that show or on this network. And I think that she reminds a lot of people of women that they knew in school or that are in their friend group that made them feel less than. And they hate her because she reminds them of someone from their life that they didn't like. But I don't think she's done anything to the level of the hate that she gets. People have a vitriol towards her. And I think that's a problem with like the people that have the vitriol and not with her. Is she perfect? No. Does she say things that are inappropriate a lot of times? Yes. Does she behave in a way that's frustrating? Sure. Who on TV doesn't?
Right. But let's not forget, because on your podcast, I talked about like the misogyny that leads women to tear down other women. This is a societal issue. You know, it's like, yes, West is getting hate, but probably not as much as Amanda. And
nothing compared to Amanda.
Right. So it's like, I think there is a real misogyny problem. That's clear. I know that, right? This world needs to do better for women, period, end of sentence. But what happens is the women, we internalize misogyny, and then we'll be like, oh, well, West is so cute, so maybe we don't care about holding him accountable. But then like people will rage about Janet. Listen, I think that Janet I understand like the things that she is doing. Like she's trying to, by the way, let's just talk about the Valley, because I feel like maybe this is a good transition, and then we could talk about Summer House after. But like, I think Janet is speaking on behalf of other women's experience after Jasmine asked her to stop doing it. And I think that is also what frustrates me. Yeah, it's like super annoying. But I also love the fact that Jason and Janet are calling out Danny's inappropriate behavior, because on your podcast, I said that I think the most dangerous woman on Bravo is Emmy from Southern Hospitality. And I think one of the most problematic men is Danny from the Valley.
And it's not just because he gets drunk, blacks out, and grabs people.
It's so much more than that. So I want to hear your thoughts, because we haven't, since the Valley's come back, we haven't talked about the Valley yet. And you said you kind of had some interesting thoughts about a couple of things. So I would love to hear, like, wherever you want to start, what do you think about the Valley so far?
I think it's depressing, so I'm not as into it. However, I appreciate the depiction of like postpartum situations. Because it is so real. And I think Kristen is so brave for just like being herself on camera and saying how she's feeling and what she's thinking. Mia has a way of sugarcoating even her own depression.
And why do you think that is, Mandy? Why do you think that is?
I don't even want to go into her. It's because she's with a guy that like thinks she's a Disney princess and expects her to act that way at all times. And it is so fucking annoying. Even though I know she's a sweet woman, I find how she behaves to be unrealistic and not like you cannot be that way all the time. I actually think she has a front. And I think there are times that she gets angry and times that she gets upset and she just doesn't let the cameras track it. She's very, very in control of her emotions. And I don't think we're watching reality when we watch Danny and Nia. I think everything is like unsaid. Whereas like when we're watching Kristen and Luke, we are watching reality. And so that's why I think we do need to give them a lot more grace in how both of them are navigating it, because I do think they are being really raw and real and vulnerable. And at first I was really frustrated with Luke. Like, how is he talking about having sex and wanting to have sex, and she's just finished her like fourth trimester and all this stuff. This episode made me realize it's like a way more than that. It's that he compromised in this relationship in a way that she did not have to. He moved to where she wanted to be. He took the friend group that she wanted to be around. He gave up all the parts of him that made him himself and made him happy. Living off the grid, fishing, being around his family. He doesn't have any of that. And he wants to still feel like himself while being with her. And it's really hard to do that when you're a new dad, right? And she always wants him around, and I get it. but like he does need for his well-being to go fishing. And I know that sounds crazy, right? But I don't think it's any different than like a mom who's a new mom who's really into pottery, like going back to the pottery studio or dancing again or going back to Pilates or whatever makes them feel like themselves, or going back to work, right? It's
Right.
really important to not lose yourself just because you are a new parent. And I don't know if there's
Sure.
like an appropriate time after you have a kid that you can like start being yourself again, right? And I know that the hard part is like when you're breastfeeding, you don't get the ability to just do whatever you want. You are physically tied to another human being and they depend on you for life. So it's annoying that men don't have to consider that. And we're all
Right.
watching it and we're annoyed on Kristen's behalf that like he
Yep.
can go out and party and that he can pass out on the couch and that he's talking about fishing when she's just trying to keep the baby alive. Like,
Right.
I understand all of that. I do think he did give up a lot and he's trying to tell her that like he feels like he's not himself also. And
Right.
she's
Right.
saying like, I
And
don't feel like
that's
myself. And he's also
right.
like, I don't feel like myself either. And he's not sure how to say it or like he doesn't want to upset her. And so when he said like, I would love to go to therapy with you to like talk about all of this, I thought that was the most brilliant thing to say because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, clearly it's difficult to communicate right now. You're in a really tough position and I'm not sure how I can make it better for you. He's coming up with
Right.
ideas. He's trying. It's not like he's not trying, you know? I think
Right.
another thing is, and I feel like I've said this before, but I saw him and Kristen up close at BravoCon in a situation where I felt like he handled it really, really well. And that changed how I view him as a
Well,
partner
because
to
that's a
her.
real life, right? That's not something you're watching on
Yeah.
TV. You got real life experience. And so, of course, that's going to inform your thoughts. Yeah.
And so what happened was we were in like line to meet them at a Bravo Palooza, which sounds so stupid. It's like a cocktail party where you like their step and repeats and you like get pictures with them. But like I like talking to them and I don't know, just hear what they're up to. And women kept going up to Kristen and telling them their baby stories and
Mhm.
experiences of miscarriage and thanking her
Mhm.
for talking about her experience on camera. But she's hearing this over and over and
And
over.
over.
And it was like she was like 5-6 months postpartum. She has tears in her eyes every time someone talks to her. She is literally crying because
Yeah.
of these stories.
Right.
And Luke saw, and he's there, right? He's with her. And he literally was like, let's take a beat. And like stopped the line, stood in the corner with her and did some deep breathing, gave her reassurance. Look at all these people. You are helping so many people. Like it must be so overwhelming. Like, let me know when you need a break kind of a thing. And they did like a deep breath. And I was like, and then they came back and it was like me and my friend that were there. And so I felt like, and then I was like, well, I'm not going to bring up anything sad, right? Because like, why would I
Right.
do that? But I was just like, oh my God, we're so excited. We had dinner with Terry Maloney. She says hi. Like, and they were just, it like totally lit up Kristen. She was like, I love Terry, you know, like it was so sweet. And I felt like in that moment, I saw a couple like that was very connected, right? That like she was in a
Right.
tough spot and he like stood up in that moment. And I was like, oh, okay, I feel like they're actually like a really solid couple that is going through some serious struggles. But I don't think he's like this inherently bad
Bad.
or insensitive or like, I think he is stumbling his way through
Yeah.
everything and it comes across really badly. But I don't think his heart is in a bad place. And I think
Yeah.
Kristen knows that too, which is why she's not like, she's annoyed with him, but she's not. And then when they were at their date and there was a moment during her first trimester that she like was really acting kind of crazy and he's like, I can't do this anymore. And she took that as him wanting to leave. And he was so shocked. He's like, I would never leave. Like I meant, I don't want to do this argument anymore.
Right.
I don't
Right.
want to keep having this situation. Not that I'm going to pick up and leave. And so then he felt like, oh my gosh, I'm never leaving you. Just so you know, I'm not leaving you. I'm just trying to have conversations about parts of things that I'm unhappy with as well. And I don't think
Right.
she's in a place where she can hear it because she's not like, I think she's having insecurities with herself, with whether or not he'll stay. Like, I think that's just an issue in general for her with
Yeah,
men.
I think,
Uh,
like, she has major
yeah.
trust
Does that make
issues.
sense?
Totally.
Yeah. Like I just,
No, it all makes
yeah,
so much sense. And I always love and appreciate your empathetic, like, because I think you're right. Like, for me, Danny and Luke are different. Like, Danny to me seems
they're
inherently
totally different.
problematic, and Luke seems
Yeah.
to be like someone, but this is why I get frustrated too, because like Luke seems to be wanting to follow Danny, and like there's been talks about him like joining his mega church and like all this other stuff, and it's like we don't need another Danny. Kristen doesn't need that. So like, but to your point, what you said is makes so much sense in terms of like all new parents deserve to have hobbies and time away and things that help them refill their cup. However, what I think the problem with Luke is, this is my thought. I want to see what you think about this. He picks the wrong time and place to talk about it. So for example, when Kristen's like, I'm drowning, and he's like, I'm drowning too. Sometimes with
Right.
couples, when there's competing issues, nothing gets resolved, right? So it's
Right.
like
Yeah.
they need to focus on one issue at a time, attend to Kristen, then attend to Luke, like, and not make it seeming like a competition, even though I don't think that is Luke's goal. They just both want to be heard. Secondly, I believe that therapy is a great idea as long as they don't go to Kristen's therapist who told her
Yes.
it's 15 minutes a day, just out of a day, just go fuck your husband. No, that's not. That helper needs
That's
to stop
insane.
helping and run and do something else, because that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Lastly, I think that one thing that is really helping me understand some things is the fact that, like, when you're postpartum and you have a child, there's no going back to a normal. Your whole life is changed. Your whole family dynamic, there's a new person in it that completely disrupts the system in a beautiful way, but it is literally a disruption. And so people, I think, go into having children woefully unprepared for how that's going to happen. And then when it does happen, they're unsure how to navigate it. Like Luke keeps saying, I want to go back to normal, but sir, you have to form your new normal. Kristen has to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it as a family. And I think because Kristen's struggling so much, she seems to maybe be like the leader of that family. She seems to be kind of like the head of the household. And so, which
Hmm.
like great, but I think what happens is Luke gets codependent. And so when Kristen's up, he's up. When she's down, he's down. So codependency is when somebody else becomes your emotional thermostat. And it is really common in postpartum experiences to ride this roller coaster. But what really needs to happen is in a dynamic like that, someone needs to keep grounded when the other person's up, right? Someone needs to keep grounded when the other person's down. But sometimes couples have a hard time like managing that role, if that makes sense.
I agree with everything you said. Like, I think it's really hard to do that. He has gone through a full calendar year where things have not been normal, quote unquote, right? Like, she's been pregnant for 40 weeks. And then the last 14 weeks you've had a baby. So like none of it's been quote unquote normal. And he's trying to
Right.
find some sort of a semblance of like feeling like a familiarity. You know, this is a different new city. And I think the times he brings things up, but I also think that like he's being told by production, share what you're feeling with your
Right.
fiance.
Yeah, because they're
You
on the
know,
show.
so I
Yeah.
think, and he's also not
Right.
a reality star. He's not someone who sought out
Right.
reality TV. So I think he is more likely to come across poorly on it because he doesn't know how to outmaneuver the system. Whereas like
Yeah, you're
Danny, I
totally
think,
right.
is like trying to make himself look better. I also
Ugh.
think Luke probably doesn't know a lot of dads. He is younger. He's in his early 30s. And so he's like, wow, there's this guy and he's got 4 kids and they all seem happy and healthy
Mm.
and content, right? Because that's the picture that Danny is painting. And I
Mhm.
think he's like, wow, this is a great example of a dad. And I'm looking to like create a healthy, happy
Right.
family too. Like
Right.
everything Luke is doing makes sense to me. I don't think it's the right way,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
He's
feel like
not doing a good job.
I just feel like he's very like he's the one person on the cast that's most likely to come across poorly because he has had no reality
Right.
TV training. He has not lived in
Right.
LA. He has not been through like I don't think he sat through and watched Vanderpump Rules. I don't think he knows this game. And
Yeah.
so he's
He's
just
not
like
savvy
listening
like
to he's
Danny.
not savvy.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's not
Yeah.
savvy. And so I think that's why he's coming across the way he's coming across. If it was such an issue, I think you would see like Kristen talking about how frustrated she was looking back. And like,
Mhm.
that's not the vibe she's giving out right now.
Yeah, that's true. And again, listen, it's like, yes, this man needs to fish. He needs to go out, but like, you also need to be part of the family unit when you come home.
Of
Like,
course.
if she's
Of course.
asking
You
you
should
to
not.
just do
Yeah.
two things, to not sleep on the
You
couch
do
and
those
to
two
wake up,
things.
then you have to do those things. If
100%.
you
No.
can't do that, yeah, then you're the problem here. But as a human being, like, do you remember there used to be this crazy campaign? It was like in the 70s, which it was these little cartoon characters that it was like love means never having to say you're sorry. Do you remember those little? It was like a
That
comic
sounds
strip.
familiar.
But my point in bringing it up is that, like, love means saying you're sorry all the time,
All the
right?
time. Yeah.
Literally being a human, if you're doing this right, you're going to be an asshole, you're going to screw up. And love means having to be like, you know what? Yeah, I was wrong. I take accountability, and here's what I'm going to do differently. I think that we don't know if he's doing that behind the scenes. And I definitely agree. You're right. Like, the producers are probably like, we'll talk about this and talk about that. And then all he has is Danny. And it's like, oh, that's not great. Well,
And
not
it's not
all
like
he has.
anyone
He has
else on the
Jason too.
cast is like a great example. Like, clearly he has an annoyance with Jason because of how Jason treated Danny. Like, Kristen and Luke like Danny and Nia as a couple. They like spending time with them. They look up to them for whatever reason they do. And I actually think Janet and Jason are a better couple to look to for, I don't know, just basics of like
Anything for
living
literally
anything. Yeah.
anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know
Well,
Janet's annoying, and all of that, but
I have to tell you something crazy too. So speaking of the Valley, so my post, when I did a post about, cause like I've been talking a lot about like postpartum mental health and doing a lot of like psychoeducation about that, because I think I'm not enjoying the Valley. It feels dark. It's like dark and boring. And I don't understand how it can be both, but that's literally how I feel. I do it for you all because that's what you want, but I'm not enjoying it. Oh gosh. What was I saying? I feel like Kristen, my post about like 2 weeks ago, Kristen Doty liked it, which always gives
Aw.
me like, I get nervous when these people are like reading my stuff because it just makes me very nervous. But then last week, when I had posted about supporting Jason, because like Jason calling out Danny's crappy behavior, I'm never going to not support that. Like, so for Danny, if he thinks that drinking alcohol is not a problem for him and he wants to joke about it, I don't find that funny at all. Because for me, if I drink alcohol and then sexually assaulted people, I'd probably reevaluate my relationship with alcohol. So for Danny to make jokes about that, I appreciate what Jason said. And when I posted about that, Janet liked my post. And I was like, I feel like this is like dueling pianos. Like, if I'm it's like, who's
No, it's
gonna
so
notice
true.
or
It's so true, but I think it's like it's not Jason and Janet's fight to like they don't need to like hold
right.
the flame and the torch on this. Like, we get your point. You've made your
Yes.
point. People either
Yes.
agree or they don't agree, but like we got to move on.
Yes.
But I think Jason is one of the more like emotionally regulated people we've seen on TV. And I
Yes.
appreciated how upset he was with himself for how he spoke to Danny at the reunion, because that was him not being emotionally
Mhm.
regulated. And he
Right.
wanted to apologize. And that tells me a lot about him. And Danny used it as some like he was just trying to jab. Right. And
Yeah,
even Jason
because he's an
said, I'm
asshole.
not happy with the choice of words that Janet used. Right.
Right.
Like
Right.
sexual assault. That
Yeah.
is implying a more severe action than what occurred, according to all of them, I guess. And it's not necessarily a wrong way of
It's
describing it.
it's
It's just,
accurate. It's an
it's,
accurate description, but I understand, and that's where like what you're saying is like there's two pieces to this pie. It's an accurate description, that is what sexual assault is, but also Janet is using it to fight a fight that isn't hers, which like
yeah.
partly it's like, yes, we need to stand up for women, and I appreciate Jason standing up for women and his wife and letting Danny know, like, if you're doing weird shit, getting drunk and doing weird shit around women, people aren't going to feel comfortable with you. I support that. But to your point, we just have to let this go and let Danny make his own bed, right?
I said something last season that ended up being accurate, and I feel really good about it.
Oh, tell me.
So
What'd you
last
say?
season, I said I thought all of the Janet and Jason versus Danny and Nia stuff was about politics, and I was accurate.
Oh, you're
Janet.
totally right. And in fact,
Yeah,
you
she was
posted a
like,
story.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, Janet said when asking a question, like, why is it so hard to let this go? And she's just like, basically, they don't believe in human rights.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need to stop laughing because it's like, but Danny and Nia belong to a very conservative church, and
Mhm.
Danny has posted positive things about Charlie Kirk, and like people are allowed to have their opinions. It's totally fine. It's just not in line with how Janet and Jason see the world. And I think that there's like an inherent, what's the right word? Tension between that,
Yes. Yes.
especially with people who are part of the LGBTQ community on the show.
Mhm.
Jasmine and Zach, I don't think usually want to be like the token gay people on the show,
Right.
right?
Right.
But and they just want to be able to be friends with people without having to like worry about who they vote for and all of that stuff. They just want to be normal people. But it's very clear that Danny has views that are very traditional, that are not in line
AKA
necessarily
problematic.
with, I mean, just, and the thing is like, it's not necessarily problematic if like you're fine with it, right? Like if a heterosexual couple get married and they decide to have traditional gender roles and they are both down for that, like that is their choice.
Right. But
That
then
is their
don't tell
choice.
everybody else how they need to
That they
live
have to
because
do
you don't
exactly
believe.
that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
That's
I
the part.
understand, right, that's the part. And I understand from Janet and Jason's perspective, I can't be friends with people who don't believe that other people should have basic human rights. I can't do that personally. So I understand that divide. Cuz again, and it's not about Republican or Democrat. This is just about basic believing in basic human rights regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, blah blah blah. All of it, right? So I
Yeah.
understand their frustration with Danny because he makes these comments and he says things like, I'm a man of faith and I'm going to forgive, but then you're not forgiving because you're being a
You're
dick. You're
not.
being a right. So for me, I'm going to be very clear. I don't like people who wear religion as a shield to protect racism, sexism, homophobia, misogyny, whatever it is. Don't come near me with that because I have no fucking tolerance for it. And I'm going to be honest, I think that's where Janet and Jason are at, which I also, I get it and I respect it. I do.
I understand it too. And that's what I've been saying since last season. I was like, this is just like a clash of political and religious views. This is just a
Well, damn,
clash. They just
Andy,
like
you were spot
inherently
on.
don't, this doesn't,
Spot on, girl.
they're never going to see eye to eye. Whereas I
No,
think
no,
the other
never.
cast, the cast is very liberal, right? Like the cast is very progressive. They live in like West Hollywood and, and in the Valley and you know what I mean? Like this is liberal LA. But I do think that Kristen and others, and Kristen's extremely progressive. I
Mhm.
think that they have space for allowing like Danny and Nia to have different views, which
Sure.
may not necessarily
Yes.
be different politically. I don't know, but like they're more open to that. And I just think Janet and Jason get frustrated because they're like, oh yeah, we're on this show with like Zach and Jasmine, but if Danny had to decide whether or not Zach could get married or whether or not he could be a
Right.
pastor of a church or whether or not like he wouldn't be saying the things that he wouldn't be supportive.
That's right. And so for me, when you are voting for an administration that is actively trying to take away rights of LGBTQIA plus population, to me, you can't be a friend to someone. I can't be an ally. I can't be a friend to someone if I'm voting against their interest. But I hear what you're saying, and I agree that there's always room for different points of view. I just hate the fact that their point of view is so gross and icky and rooted in just not good things. But at some
Yeah.
point, it's like you're on a show together. You're going to have to make it work. And I think maybe that's why the Valley feels both dark and boring because it's like Luke is he's trying to like get Janet and Jason and Nia and Danny together, but that's a futile task. He is wasting his energy. He should be putting that energy into Kristen and the baby and to doing his
Mm-hmm.
things and not like Danny is never gonna, like, they're just never gonna see eye to eye.
But I think this was a suggestion from production as well. Like, I just think all of it is
Yeah.
like, ooh, who will actually do this? Because they don't know how to like
Listen, you're probably
navigate
right.
reality TV. Oh, we'll go
You're
to
right.
Luke, who's like the least, like he's friends with everyone. He doesn't have a problem with anyone, you know? And so
Right.
yeah, he did it. But what I am enjoying about The Valley is Michelle.
Yes.
I feel like Michelle's finally took her 3 seasons and now she's finally being like fun and open and she's not tied to a guy and she's not trying to protect a man. She's just being herself. And I absolutely love that for her. I find
Same.
Jesse entertaining. I'm interested in his relationship with Lacey. I am like fascinated how he went to a relationship where he had all the power to a relationship where he had no power. That is just
So
like
true.
fascinating, both as like a choice for him, but
That's so
also just like it's very rare to see men have 2 completely different roles in 2 different relationships. Usually people
Mandy,
like to assume the same kind of role. It's so weird to me and fascinating. I love it. I want to see more of it. I like how Jesse has
so
become friends with
right.
Zach. I think that is a
Yes.
funny pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can be an asshole. He is charming as hell. And I think Zach is funny. I
Zach
like
is
how
the what do you call it? Like the comedic relief, like the things that Zach
he's
says.
so funny.
I'm like, you're hilarious. Put this on a t-shirt. I can't. Like when he was joking about like the Oregon Trail when they were going to Santa Clarita, I was just like, Zach is just giving me life this season.
I love it. And I do appreciate how honest he is with Brittany. I feel like her friends have difficulty being honest with her.
Yes.
I think Lala's honest with her. I think Lala will ask her questions like, do you think he's interested in you because of this? And like, of course, Brittany will be like, no, you know, but Lala's at least like, she's treading in that direction. The one person I really don't like right now is Jasmine. I really don't like how she's moving on the show. I've never trusted her because of how she behaved when she was on The Bachelor. And there's like something about her that is making me not happy. And
it's so funny
yeah.
you say that because I had the same feeling. I was texting with Lindsay and Brady about it. I'm like, I want to like Jasmine, but there's something about her, that it's like she'll talk shit and then she'll get called on it and then she'll be like, well, and then she'll just freak out. And it's like, but you said it. There is, like you said, a way that she's moving that feels weird to me, but I can't put my finger on it. So yes, since you articulated that, I'm like,
don't like it.
Mm-hmm. I don't
like Danny already knew I didn't like.
Right.
But with Jasmine, I was like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't like you.
Yeah. And it's like, I do every episode. I want to like her and give her the opportunity. But just every week seems to be something else. But like, I guess what I'm wondering is how on earth do these people, like, how does the show move forward when it's like, well, Janet wasn't even on the last couple apps. It just feels like weird, you know?
It seems disjointed. I feel like something has to change in order to make it work. I think there's going to be some real changes in cast moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, there would have to be, because at this point, like, this just isn't working. But the last thing I'll say, because I want to switch over to Summer House, but to your point, I think that one of the things that I wrote about a lot on Instagram is that we all need a friend like Zach. We need a friend who's going to tell us the hard stuff. Brittany is in La La Land. She is in denial land. She is in the land of, I got my sporkle back, and I want to, she wants to have sex and great orgasms and date and like live your life. But she does not acknowledge that she missed all, like, Jax's red flags. Not only did she miss it, but when you're in a relationship for that long that's toxic, you get sick too, like it or not. You just do. You learn to tolerate a lot of things. You learn to be codependent. You learn, like, right, she has a role that she needs to understand how she got there, because if she doesn't, she's going to repeat the same unhealthy relational patterns. So Zach is basically saying that in Zach's way, and he is 1,000% right. And I appreciate his commitment to being like, listen, Brittany, I know you don't like this, but I'm going to continue to tell you this. And with the current boyfriend, guess what? They broke up because, it just like wasn't Zach could see it probably wasn't the greatest fit for Brandon to come in and to fulfill that role of Jax of like starting shit and gossiping. Like you could tell that triggered Brittany. And when she felt triggered by that, I was like, girl, listen to your friend Zach. This is what he's trying to tell you, you know?
Yeah, but
So
then when they all went, or when like Kristen and Jasmine and Brittany went to like lunch, Kristen and Jasmine were like, "Do you think he was trying to get in the mix and be messy?" And she's like,
mhm.
"No." She won't even allow herself to like see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, it's called denial. Rula from Real
Mhm.
Housewives of Rhode Island knows about it. By the way, I have watched Rory. I will start covering it, but if you want to hear me talk about it, go to part 1 of Mandy's podcast. We talk about Real Housewives of Rhode Island. So before we lose too much time, let's swap over to Summer House. Even though we're not going to necessarily talk about the leaked footage, there was so much insanity in this episode. It's like I keep saying on Instagram that remember like when they came back to the house and like the martini shaker was filled with disgusting blue cheese and it was like out all week.
Mhm.
I feel like that's how every episode of Summer House feels to me. It feels like crusty old blue cheese. I'm just like, I can't. I'm having a lot of trouble with it from, Amanda at the top of the episode saying, this is to me, these are the most egregious things and I want to see what you think. For Amanda and West to claim that they see Sierra and then for this to happen, it's like, you all never saw her. You never understood her. Just a couple weeks ago, she was sitting at a table trying to talk about how getting clowned by a white man on TV, how that's felt as a Black woman and as a person of color. And these two people have not heard a single thing that she has to say. And it's like, yeah, that's a real problem.
Yeah. I agree. I also really appreciate Ira Madison III's commentary. And also he's friends with Ray Sani, who also has commentary on the show, where they're a little more critical of Sierra. Obviously,
Mm,
they support her and they
yeah,
think she was wronged in this situation. He said something like, you mentioned the difficulties in interracial dating, but you never stop and ask yourself, why am I doing this? And do
right.
I want to keep doing this?
Right. And so just what I said about Brittany applies to Sierra in that if we
Yes.
do not understand why we are making the decisions we're making, we're going to repeat the same unhealthy relational patterns. And that is Sierra's role. Her role is figuring out why are you participating in this? I could not agree more. I'm still Team Sierra. I'm still super supportive
Oh,
of her,
yeah.
but she has work to do or should say, and she has work to do about getting herself like she's just historically picked these men. Austin, West Austin, all the people that she's dated that just haven't served her. She's got to start thinking about how do I break these patterns and choose somebody who's going to be a better fit for me. So, absolutely, I agree with that.
Yeah. And part of me is like watching her and West have that conversation at the end of the episode. And she's saying it's almost like her whole being and body is telling her, don't trust this man. Listen to yourself.
Right.
Listen to
Like,
yourself. There's a
why
reason your
are you
body and your brain
not?
are telling you not to trust him.
Right. But see, and this is the part though that I feel like, I could see her not trusting her gut and wanting to give West the opportunity because I think that a lot of survivors of trauma want to see the best in others and they also want to see their role in things. And what I mean by that is sometimes Sierra wants to see her role where it doesn't apply and she doesn't want to see her role where it should apply. You know what I mean?
No. What do you
Okay.
mean by your role?
So
Sorry.
so like Sierra with West, for example, I think the reason she was softening and was trying to forgive him and cuz she's like, "Well, I don't want to be too challenging. I don't want to be too difficult not forgiving someone because she like when she was talking to West, she's like, "Well, my role in this was," and I forget even what they were talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I mean, where West was saying something and she's like, well, I feel like I could have done this for you more. And that enraged me because it's like, no, this man is gaslighting you. He's lying to you and you're looking for, well, what do I need to do different here to help West? Instead of, what do I need to do different here to help me? I
But
guess
she
that
is
if
such
that,
an empathetic and like, giving person. Like it goes back to the nurse in her where you're always focused on the
right,
patient and not
right.
on yourself, obviously, because that's your job. He is so annoying in how casual he likes to make sex. It's just
Mm.
like that's how he views it. It's a very like elementary, youthful, juvenile way of looking at things. And
Well,
he's
that's
kind of
West's
like,
whole
why does it
personality.
have to get complicated? Why do we have to have feelings? Why does it have to matter if you meet my family? All that is crazy. Everyone else
It's
feels differently.
insane.
Most women feel differently. And you're annoyed that like, and it's only like the cool women, like Amanda's trying to be the cool girl, not
Yeah.
caring, right? Like, I
Right.
just got out of a marriage. I'm just going to hang out. I don't care if you're dating other people. I'm just going to like go with it. It's never going to
Mhm.
serve you well to like let go of what you really want. And maybe this is what Amanda wants right now. Maybe she doesn't want to have to deal with like being 100% monogamous to anyone or them being
Maybe.
monogamous to her, whatever it is. But he constantly goes from woman to woman to woman, never wanting to define anything, never even,
Mhm.
and at some point, most women do want that. And so he is
Of
just
course.
perpetually looking for a fuck buddy. He is not
Yep.
interested in a girlfriend. He has not had a girlfriend. He kind of
Literally.
has, and he'll like after the fact will be like, well, I used to date her. But while they're dating, doesn't actually say they're dating. It's
Well, remember,
very bizarre.
Mia was like, he's a great person if you don't date him. And it's like, well, that is
Oh,
a
that was Dara.
wild. Oh, you're right.
Dara
I'm
was like,
sorry,
he's the
Dara.
best person in the world unless you're
Unless you
falling for
don't
him.
date him. Wait, are you sure that was Dara? I thought that was Mia.
Yes, because she dated him for 6 months.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
And
But
she
so
was like, yeah.
just like we talked about repeating relational patterns, like I posted this on Instagram, I was like, this is scientific proof that this is correct. Amanda choosing West and Kyle making out with Megan King, y'all have not taken any time to do the work. When I saw Kyle making out with Megan King, I was like, perfect, perfect, perfect. Is
Well,
bravo scientific evidence proving my point that we will repeat relational patterns that we do not address because Megan King is, I'm trying to think
has
of a
some
word to
issues.
describe her. She
She
has
has some
troubles.
issues.
Yeah, she has troubles. That's what
But
I'll
the
say.
thing is, I don't think he's dating Megan King.
Well,
And to me,
I don't
there
think
is a
they're
difference. And
dating.
making out is like making out. It's not having this relationship where you're constantly together, constantly being seen together. You know what I mean? Like Wes and Amanda are
Oh,
physically
totally.
all over New York together.
Yeah,
You know, it's a different situation to me.
you're
And
right.
I just think it's different. I think Kyle, I don't know if he has the capability emotionally to realize what he did in that marriage that ran it into the ground. But at the same time, I think what's hard is like Amanda chose to stay in that marriage,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yes.
Kyle was happier in that marriage than Amanda was. And she chose to
I don't know about
stay.
that. Because guess what? In this
I think he,
episode,
yeah.
he said, wow, like
Yeah.
when Amanda didn't come, he was like, I didn't realize how much fun I would have without her. So I think that he's been too drunk to understand any of his feelings, right? Because when we
Yep.
anesthetize ourselves with drugs and alcohol, we don't know who we are. That's a lot of the problem with people in recovery is they have to get to know themselves and figure themselves out because when you're involved in a substance, you have no idea. So I would agree with you. I don't think Kyle has any awareness into like the role that he's played. But my point, and you're right about Megan King, is like he's not choosing her in a relationship. They're just making out. But still, the choice to make out with her, of all people, is a clinical indicator that Kyle needs therapy. Amanda needs therapy. Kyle needs
Yeah.
therapy. And I mean, like, Amanda choosing West is so spot on. She chose a younger Kyle. She chose someone who,
Yep.
what were her main complaints about Kyle? He goes out too much. He drinks too much. He doesn't come home, blah, blah, blah. She chose a man who drinks too much, goes out too much, womanizes too much, because that's something that Kyle didn't do, womanizes too
Mm.
much. And it's just like a younger, basically like a younger version of Kyle. And I think for me, that tells me that Amanda is moving from a wounded place, which is why I have empathy for her, because I think she's making decisions out of trauma responses, but she has to Just like Sierra has to figure out, why am I feeling like this is what I deserve or this is all I deserve? Amanda also has to think about, like, what do I actually want? And is this choice congruent with what I want? Because she's saying what she wants and then she's making a choice that's polar opposite. That is also a huge red flag to me that she is moving from a place of like being wounded.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. And like the mental gymnastics that she's having to do to justify dating West.
Yeah.
And like not even being monogamous. Like they're not even like, we're in love and we actually think this is going to go somewhere, which is like the only reason two people like that would ever get together. It's
Right.
like we just found ourselves in this situation. Like, that's crazy.
It is
You
crazy
don't have
because
to find yourselves in that situation. You just stop
Right.
it before. Like, if you start having a crush on your friend's ex, you stop hanging out with them. You move yourself away as
Right.
much as possible. You tell yourself that is inappropriate. And I'm not going to like play with fire, right? That
Yeah,
would be
like
hurtful to my friend. That would be hurtful
easy.
to my husband that I'm still legally married to. That I barely have 3 months of announcement of us, like she
Yeah.
went, like this must have happened a week after her and Kyle announced.
Well,
And I
and
think,
guess what?
yeah,
Did you hear on Watch What Happens Live when Jesse said that
yes,
Okay, so that they, like, were out for a guy's brunch, and then, like, Wes disappeared and Amanda disappeared, and then they ran into them out at a bar, and so I think the major issues here is the lying
mm-hmm.
to people's faces, all of that, but the point I wanted to make is that when people have emotional affairs, those seeds are planted years, sometimes decades in advance, okay? People like to believe that, oh, well, if we didn't kiss or we didn't have sex, there's no issue. Like there's a similar storyline going on with Rory, which is Liz and her friend Dino, like Liz and her husband's friend Dino. And everyone's like, well, you had an affair. And she's like, well, we're just best friends. I didn't have an affair. But then she admitted in her confessional that are they closer than maybe they should be? Does she over rely on him? Well, that sounds like an emotional affair to me. And so to me, the point going back to Amanda and West is this just didn't happen overnight as soon as her and Kyle
Yeah.
decided to divorce. These seeds have been planted, and denying that fact is absolutely fucking absurd. It's just laughable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's hard to watch. It's sad. I just want Sierra to like free herself from all of this. And
Yes.
I don't want her to trust any less because of it. I think she's someone who's already guarded. And I don't think that serves her well in her life. I think she thinks it protects her, but it hasn't. Look she's been guarded and this happened to her. Sometimes shit just happens.
Can I say, I think because she's guarded is why she's making bad decisions for herself. Because when we make a decision from a place of being 1 foot in and 1 foot out, it's not good for us. So I think that's actually part of her trouble with finding good people. So before we wrap up, one of the things that I really wanted to shed light on and talk about, because to me, Sierra, Mia, and KJ are like the shining light of Summer House.
Yeah.
And when we saw Mia and her brother and Sierra go to the psychic medium, it was a scene that I'm not joking. I bawled. I absolutely bawled to see Mia and her brother feel so validated, and the psychic was so spot on, and Sierra, was sitting in the corner taking notes and crying with them. And
that was so sweet.
I kept thinking to myself, Amanda gave this up for Midwest, which is, by the way, now how I'm going to refer to West, Midwest, because he is mid.
I don't like that because
like
it's making it seem like the Midwest in general is not good, and I don't think he should be the example of the Midwest. I love the Midwest, and
as someone who was born,
I don't
in Chicago,
think he's a good example. I don't think he's a good example of a Midwestern guy either. Like truly,
he's not. Midwestern guys are the greatest for the most part, right? There's always outliers.
Yeah.
But they're respectful. They're I never had troubles, by the way. So I grew up in Chicago until I was 17. And then that's when we moved to Northeast PA. I never had one problem with a boyfriend when I was in Illinois. And then when I came here, I'm like, what is in the water here? What goes on? So that's a great point about Midwest. Yeah. But going back to Mia, I think that it was just like a really sweet moment to watch. But I love how Mia is like sharing about grief, because to me, you are very well acquainted with the grief of losing a parent and how that throws your world off its axis. And I think that Mia is doing such a good job sharing her story, which will help other grievers. And so that's something I'm really enjoying.
Me too. I love her. I love everything about her. I love how she shows up for her friends. I love how she is able to like encompass all of the parts of her, the emotional part, the sad part, the like, I'm just going to have a fun night part. I love my boyfriend and I'm not sure his job fits in the type of lifestyle I want to have in the future part. Like all of it is, we're seeing a very like full picture of her life and who she is.
Yeah.
And I adore her and appreciate her.
Same.
And all of it is, you know, and I've had an experience with a medium, you know, and
Yeah.
I found it helpful, less helpful than I think how she found it. But, you know, I really appreciate her. I also appreciate how her and Sierra took KJ aside and were like, hey, do you think you're moving too fast with Sarah? That they didn't judge her. They did him. They didn't like, they're like, you're emotionally intelligent. You know what you got going on. We're just checking in. We're just checking in. And imagine if Danielle had done that with Lindsay instead of what she had done. Although after reading Carl's book, I have a very different like understanding perhaps or view on like the Lindsay Carl thing.
Do tell.
I mean, it's probably, I'm trying to think how to say this without like getting in trouble. I don't think Lindsay has a problem, but I do think Lindsay and probably Danielle and Carl drank and used cocaine together a lot. If they were like the three amigos and they were all best friends, I think that was happening all the time, right? I think when Lindsay and Danielle were not around Carl, they were not doing that. Right? I think they did that. For them, it was like a weekend thing. For them, it was just like for fun. I think
people can use substances recreationally if you're not an addict. I'm not saying I recommend it, but sure. Right. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think when Lindsay and Carl got together and then all of a sudden it's like, she's sober too. The whole friend group was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys were like doing lines in the bathroom last summer. So like, that's weird. Or like, you know, whatever it was. So to be in a relationship with someone you used to use with, I think is a very different dynamic. And I also think that was something that Danielle was concerned about.
Yeah.
And it's something that I like didn't really think about, but when I'm reading his book, he is using continuously in the Hamptons, back in New York, like when they're not filming, when they are filming, when it's airing, he's using so much that there's no way to be close to him and not witness it, not know about it. I think people maybe didn't have an idea of how bad it was until the last couple of years. But he also says that he had one cast member who said to him that they couldn't be friends because of what he was doing.
And he didn't say who that was?
I think, no. And I think it was Paige. Because that's the only person with boundaries in that entire cast. And remember how she used to make out with him in the closet that one season? And then I think she started like, and she's like, and he never talks to me during the week. Well, he was busy getting drunk and getting high the whole week. That's not what she's doing. You know?
And you know, so, Carl did say, by the way, he said, he goes, I think that I put down substances and I picked up Lindsay. He said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I've said too. That was my theory too, which is why you're not supposed to get into relationships for a year after you get sober, because there is such room to go from your having the addictive process around your substance to becoming an addictive process in your relationship. It happens all of the time. People put down substances and they pick up process addictions, relationship addictions, sex and love addiction, gambling addiction, because if you don't get to the root of what's creating this, then it's gonna impact all areas of your life.
So it's just interesting because I'm like, they were such good friends. He also, he is not I'm like 3/4 of the way through the book. He's not mentioned Lindsay once, but there are times where he says a cast member and I'm like, was that Lindsay? You know? So
yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
And there's a specific situation where he was like, it was 2020, it was Thanksgiving. That was like the year that a lot of people didn't go home for Thanksgiving. And he said, me and like another cast member decided to do it together. And then he was drinking all this whiskey and they got in an argument. And then he went downstairs and I was like, oh, that was Lindsay. You guys lived in the same building, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
And then he said, but people came to check on him later and he was by himself drinking and doing coke. And then they just joined. So like people weren't like, oh, this is like scary that you're doing this alone. This was, I mean, I think people were concerned, but that was also like, well, he's got coke.
Yeah, let me right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so,
Hmm.
yeah, all of it was just very interesting to read. I'm kind of like, do you have, like, a good recollection of your college, post-college, like, all of those experiences if you were just blasted the whole time? Like,
No,
it's
not only
crazy how much she used and for so how long.
and
Like,
what
it's just
happens is
wild.
your whole life, you don't remember it, number 1, and number 2, you get developmentally stunted because, like, when
Mhm.
you start using the substance, you kind of tend to get stunted. So the fact that Carl now is, like, in a better space shows how much work he's done because people in their 40s, 50s, they get sober and it's like they're teenagers again, and it's because that's the last time they felt anything. And so,
Yep.
yeah. So there are very real things here. And my gosh, Mandy, I mean, we could talk about this forever, but this
Yeah.
has been such a fun podcast. I always love our M hours. I adore you. Thank you so
Me
much
too.
for everything. Please share with everybody where they can find you and part 1 of the pod.
Yeah, so you can find me anywhere you listen to podcasts. Is This Real Life with Mandy Slutzker? You can also find me on Instagram at Mandy Slutzker. I'm on Threads at Mandy Slutzker, though I very rarely write things on Threads.
Same.
Although I did recently because Kyle used the term schmuck and a bunch of people weren't sure what that was. And I was like, this is how you
You're
can
like,
tell that
I
Kyle
know.
lives in New York
Yeah,
and
yeah.
other people don't. And I'm like, it's a Yiddish
Right.
word. And I love that people in New
Right.
York just like speak Yiddish, say Yiddish words all the time. You used
Totally.
Michigas perfectly earlier. Love that.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you. I love
and
it.
thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. And please check out part 1 of the pod. Also, please give the podcast a 5-star review, not only Your Bish Therapist podcast, but Is This Real Life with Mandy Slutzker? Because people just love to give us smoke and, whatever. We're just here to even the scales a bit. So thank you all so much for listening. Sending love to you and yours, and ta-ta for now. Disclaimer. Posts are not intended to diagnose, treat, or provide medical advice. Your Bish Therapist is for entertainment and informational purposes only. The podcast, my opinions, and posts are my own and not associated with past or present employers, any organizations, Bravo TV, Greyheart Productions, or any other television network. The information in YBT podcast and on its social media is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat. Please do not act or refrain from acting based on anything you read, see, or hear on YBT podcast or associated social media. Communicating with YBT via email and or social media does not form a therapeutic alliance. Melissa, operator of YBT, is unable to provide any therapeutic advice, treatment, or feedback.